Hey, B3rd men, Coach Field here. And I want to start this video by saying we are going to pause for a moment in our kind of regular scheduled events. We're taking a break because we started a new liturgical season, and that is the season of Advent. In the secular world, from the moment of Thanksgiving all the way through Christmas Day on December 25th is the hustle and bustle of the Christmas season. Even though most of them would say happy holidays, we as Christians would be saying Merry Christmas. But the reality is that Christmas officially in the traditional Christian calendar does not start until December 25th, and it runs for 12 days until the Feast of the Epiphany, where we celebrate the Magi coming to pay their honor and respects to Jesus. And so while most of us have decorated our houses and we are going to go to Christmas parties over the next 2 to 3 weeks, I do think it is important for us to pause, step back, and say, hey, let's not skip over this Advent season. And what I want to do over the next 3 weeks is we're going to kind of follow the same pattern that we normally do with B3rd men. So I'm teaching a lesson today. Tomorrow you will get an Old Testament passage. We'll still read from the Psalms and the New Testament, and then we'll have a gospel on Friday. But what I want to do over the next 3 weeks is I want to highlight 3 things that are really important during Advent. And that is, first and foremost, Advent should teach us to always be ready. And then we're also going to learn from some amazing biblical characters to be excited to say yes to Jesus. And then the week leading into Christmas, and Christmas does follow, it falls on a Sunday this year. And so we do need to be prepared for that mentally. But going into that week, I want to just take some of the lessons that we have directly from Bethlehem. So that might be our most different week, because we might just highlight a bunch of the gospel stories, and we'll try to extract some of the things in the story of Bethlehem and those last moments where Jesus is preparing to come into the world, and like, how could those impact us as men? How can we use those to lead our families? But this week, we're talking about always being ready. And here's what is important about Advent and why we shouldn't skip over it. First and foremost, the definition of Advent is the anticipation of a very special person, a thing, or event. And when we connect this to our biblical story, we know that the anticipation and the preparation that we are celebrating right now is Jesus. You know, Jesus coming to the manger, humbling himself to take on our humanity, ultimately to pay the ultimate price so that you and I can be in fellowship with him. But that's not the only Advent that we are celebrating. We need to constantly be celebrating the new Advent, which is our constant preparation for the second coming of Jesus himself. And that's why we always want to be ready. This is my point in our lesson today. I think in our modern Christian time period that we live in, we have gotten extremely comfortable. We value security. We value kind of planting our roots. It's admirable to have worked at one job for a long time and kind of be this man of stability. And by no means do I want to say that that is wrong, because it's not. What I really want to keep us aware of is, where is our heart? Is our heart in preparation for Jesus? Is our heart constantly longing for him? Or is our heart kind of locked in and rooted and comfortable in the world in which we live? Because if we look at the Old and the New Testament, we're going to see plenty of biblical examples and characters who were constantly always ready to answer the call of God. If we go back to Abraham, God asks him to move on several occasions. And because Abraham is just always ready, he picks up and he moves. If we look at the Passover in Exodus, we know that Moses told the people, be ready. This is how you prepare. And so they were ready. And when the time came and they needed to move, they did. We're going to see that Joseph was ready and willing to pick up the Holy Family and move them for safety reasons. Then we fast forward into the New Testaments and we look at how the apostles had a ready heart. And when Jesus came calling, they dropped everything and they followed him. In the same way, that is my point for you and I. We need to constantly be ready in our hearts for Jesus to call us potentially to something in this life that is greatly different. Maybe the new coming, the second coming of Jesus. And, you know, if you're like me and you dive in and you read a bunch of all these things, I mean, it's always funny that every generation thinks they're going to experience the second coming of Jesus. Like, oh, woe is the world. And if you have friends like I do, you know what I'm talking about. And most likely, we're not going to live for the second coming of Jesus. What we mostly need to be prepared for is our own death. You know, we need to not be like the virgins who did not bring enough oil for their lamp and they had to run off. And then the bridegroom came. They weren't ready. We want to make sure that we're ready. We want to make sure that we're living in the Spirit. That's what, you know, oils our lamp. If you want to kind of use a metaphor, is our life in the Spirit makes us ready that at any moment, if Jesus called you or I home, we are prepared for our judgment day. And then on the daily basis, when we find an opportunity to make a defense for our faith, we are prepared. Our heart is open and ready to share the gospel with everyone we encounter. And so this week, that's what we're going to look at. And we're going to focus on being ready in this Advent season, not just to welcome Jesus, the infant child Jesus, back into our homes and back into our lives, which is what we want to do. It's something to celebrate, but also we want to live a new Advent season where we are in constant preparation each and every day for the second coming or the new Advent. Jesus on his throne, coming in the clouds for the ultimate judgment of what we did or what we failed to do. So men, I'm praying for a great Advent season. My challenge to you at the very end is, you know, make some sacrifices during this time. If you think about how we prepare, you know, anytime we go into a preparation mode, we're usually kind of putting things aside. And so what are you going to put aside for the next 3 weeks? What are you going to sacrifice so that you can make more room in your heart and in your life to have Jesus be fully present and to come into a deeper relationship with him? It's going to be a great 3 weeks. I'm excited about building out this content and sharing it with you. I really hope and pray that this experience with B3rd Men is not me talking to you, but talking with you. So jump on board with locals, get involved with our community. I would love to hear from you, and I will constantly be praying for you and your family during this Advent season. Thanks. God bless.